If you're not already a train fan when you arrive in Japan, you will definitely be one by the time you leave. On my most recent trip to Tokyo, I decided to plan a train fan's perfect day out. I wanted to pack in as many train fan activities as possible, so let's take a look at the checklist. We're going to buy a physical ticket, get a train cab view, ask to keep that physical ticket, collect eki-stamps, ride a unique mode of transport, collect even more stamps, visit a railway museum, watch the turntables spin, and visit the train merch shops. I started my day here at Otsuka Station, which was near to my hotel, and as I had come and gone a few times, I had already collected the eki-stamp here, so I'm just going to show you how I got my physical ticket. We were heading towards Omiya, which is slightly outside of Tokyo Prefecture in Saitama, so this is a day out of Tokyo, literally. They only had one green ticket machine here, so I had to wait a minute before I could get to it, and I changed it to English and just simply searched for Omiya Station, and it told me how much I needed to spend to get the physical ticket. You can of course use your Suica card or any other IC card, and you may notice that physical tickets often get eaten by the machine when you leave the station, but I'm going to show you how you can ask to keep the ticket and get a special stamp on your ticket to do so. Many stations have mostly IC card barriers, so just look out for the ones that do take the physical tickets, insert it and don't forget to pick it up when you leave. Now we're in the station, we're going to go up to the platform and walk along the platform right to the very end because we want to get our next thing on the checklist, which is a cab view. Now, the Yamanote Line trains are really long, so depending on where the entrance is to the station, you may have quite a long walk right to the end. And we're going to the front of the train. You can also look out the back of the train, but of course there will not be a driver in the cab. And actually here at Otsuka Station, right towards the eastern end, you get a great viewpoint so you can see the trains coming and going on both the Yamanote Line and the other lines that do not stop at this station. I didn't put it on the list, but let's enjoy listening to the train station melody. And here's the iconic Yamanote Line train. If you wonder why I love the Yamanote Line so much, it's because I did spend a whole day, about 8 or 9 hours, collecting all 30 eki-stamps on the Yamanote Line. I have a video documenting it if you would like to watch it after this one. As we board, we can see that thankfully there is a space here at the window at the front, so we can tick off getting the cab driver's view off our checklist. I really love seeing the Yamanote Line trains running in the opposite direction because you can see just how long they are. And regardless of your age or the level of interest you have in trains, I think it's always fun to stand behind the driver and see what's ahead of us and how they're working. As we head towards Nishinipori Station, you can see the Shinkansen running on the left-hand side on the elevated tracks. And this is where we're going to be changing trains to get the train up to Omiya Station. And here we are at Nishinipori Station. And from the platform we can see the Shinkansen running north from Tokyo, including the iconic E5 Shinkansen, which is unmissable in its turquoise livery. Next, I travelled on the Keihin Tohoku line up to Omiya Station. It took about 35 minutes. At the exit gates at Omiya, I made sure to go to a staffed booth and ask them, "Omochi kaeri onegai shimasu," which means, "Please may I take this with me." For this type of ticket, I don't think people often ask to keep them. I mostly do this for Shinkansen or other special train tickets to keep them as a souvenir. But he kindly obliged and stamped and put a hole through the ticket so I could take it away with me. This means that it's cancelled and cannot be reused. If you put that ticket into the ticket gate, it will just chew up the ticket and not spit it back out for you. So that's another thing done off our checklist. Let's head to the next thing. Over by the ticket office, I found the eki-stamp, which is the train station stamp, which you can collect for free. You can use any notebook or piece of paper that you like to collect stamps on. Make sure you always close the ink pad after using. The imagery on this stamp is to evoke the idea of the Omiya railway town because of the railway museum nearby, and it includes imagery of two different Shinkansen series, the E5 and the E7. So now that we've successfully collected the eki-stamp of Omiya Station, we're going to go and ride a unique mode of transport. Following the signs towards the very end of the station, we're looking for the new shuttle. On the way, we pass the general store rail yard, which I'm going to resist for now. We're going to follow the signs to the right hand side here, which point to the new shuttle and the railway museum. The new shuttle is a manually driven rubber-tired people mover system which runs along the elevated tracks alongside the Shinkansen from Omiya Station. I don't think I've ever been on this kind of transport before, so I was excited to see what it was like. As you can see from the flow of people, one had just arrived into the station, and because I had actually intended to leave earlier that morning and was running a little bit late, I was worried that I would miss out on the scheduled event at the Railway Museum, so I used the Suica card on my phone and quickly ran to get onto the next shuttle. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to stop and wait for the next one and get some nice shots of the train, but I could do that later. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't late for this event at the Railway Museum. The Railway Museum isn't too far from Omiya Station. It takes just a few minutes by the new shuttle. And the route diverts around some buildings next to the station before it aligns with the Shinkansen line.
This train is bound for Eki-stamp. The next station is the Railway Museum.
As you head towards the ticket gate, on the right hand side is where I found an eki-stamp for the new shuttle. So of course I had to collect it before leaving. And I really like this one because, like everything in Japan, there has to be a mascot, and this one is made out of the new shuttle. As soon as you leave the ticket gate, you are basically in the Railway Museum. There are various rolling stock parts displayed here in the promenade, and you will notice as you get closer that the floor turns into the Shinkansen timetable, and the colourful lines crisscrossing above represent a Shinkansen diagram. As the event inside the museum is due to start soon, I decided that I would have a look at everything outside on my way out instead. Here is the entrance to the museum, and it's out here that you can buy a ticket. It's sort of like buying a ticket to a train to buy your ticket to the museum. I just changed it to English, and when I visited, it was 1,600 yen for adults to enter the museum, which I think is quite well priced. You cannot pay with credit cards, but you can pay with cash or IC card. And of course you get a nice ticket that you can keep as a souvenir. So now that we've paid, let's head on into the museum. They'll check your ticket before you can go in, and it is very tempting to immediately head to the shop, which is to the left. But first I'll just collect the stamp that is here. There is a little square on the map where you can put the stamp, but I just chose to put it into my book as well as stamping on the map later. I headed straight into Rolling Stock Station, which is the area that they have various different types of rolling stock, and there is a lot on display here. I will put on screen a caption for each item that we see. And it may seem like I know a lot about trains, but I've gotten most of this information from the labels or the app, which you can download. I wouldn't call myself a foamer, and I only know that term from watching Miles in Transit videos. But my background is in art history, and so when I come to museums like this, I'm mostly here for the design and the social history aspect. And seeing the rolling stock here, these early imports from the UK, it's really fascinating to see how they took train transport and travel and just ran with it and made some of the most iconic trains that everyone knows today. The space here for the rolling stock is just gigantic. It is so huge and there is so much to look at. And right ahead of us is the turntable, which has the Class C 57 steam locomotive on it. And this is what I was rushing here for, because there is 2 times a day where this steam locomotive on the turntable spins around and everyone gathers to watch. I had a little time to look around before it was going to spin, so I had a little stroll through the rest of the rolling stock. I really love the distinctive designs of these trains from the 60s and the 70s, and also I really like pink, so these trains were perfect for me. The great thing is that you can go inside many of these trains and you can sit down and have a look around. They are lovely time capsules, but it does also make me appreciate the improvements to comfort for modern trains that we enjoy. Down along this platform you can see the old ticket gates where someone used to stand and check the tickets physically. And hidden at the back we have some of the early Shinkansen as well. I really love the early Shinkansen. The look of them with their big fat nose is just so iconic. And I really love the green of the Series 200. So let's go up and have a look at what it was like inside. Unfortunately we couldn't see into the cab view, but we can go down and have a look at the seats. They're pretty similar to what we have today in the 3-2 configuration. Outside there are some steps leading down, so if you want to have the mechanic's eye view, you can look up into the undercarriage of the Shinkansen, which I think is absolutely amazing. However, I didn't see any interpretation down here, so there aren't any labels telling you what is what, but it's worth having a look anyway. I just love being able to look at the noses of these big Shinkansen up close. On the rolling stock floor there is a mix of passenger trains but also freight locomotives, so there is really something for everyone. I feel like this brown locomotive here has quite a lot of character in its face. It was getting closer to the time that the turntable was due to start spinning, so I headed back to the way upstairs. They also have this steam locomotive here which they have cut away so you can see all of the pieces inside and learn about how it works. As we walked in, we saw 2 imported locomotives from the United Kingdom, and this one here is from the United States. And this one you can walk up and have a look from the cab. And it's amazing to see just how far we've come from the days of steam locomotives. And here you can see the more prominent cowcatcher of the US locomotive. At the back here there is also a simulator, but you need to enter into a raffle and pay an extra fee in order to use it. Upstairs there's seating so you can watch the trains run past, but I came up here to see the turntable in motion. Now I have turned the volume all the way down, but there is a very long whistle before it starts turning. And here we go. As they start to turn, you'll see that there are staff at the front and the rear of the turntable near the controls. And there's also someone in the cab waving, and they wave the entire time. There is also someone providing narration in Japanese. I couldn't understand what was being said, but I'm sure they were telling the story about this locomotive. She was standing on the opposite side of the locomotive, so I couldn't see her until it had turned around. Now, I had assumed because this event happens twice a day that they would turn halfway around to face the opposite direction and then later in the afternoon turn back around, but no, it is a full rotation each time. And I won't make you sit through this entire clip because it is about 6.5 minutes long, which means it takes about 12 minutes for a full rotation. So let's speed this up a little, shall we? I wanted to keep looking around the museum as I had other plans later in the afternoon. So I watched it turn halfway, made the realization that it was going to go all the way around, and then decided to continue exploring this floor. Up here they have the rolling stock historical timeline, which has all of these wonderful little models alongside dates and information about the changes to rolling stock through the years in Japan. If you're looking for a certain kind of train that isn't full size downstairs, you'll probably find a replica model of it up here. It was also really nice to spot some of the trains downstairs in miniature form. I also really love the design of head marks on old Japanese trains, so I really enjoyed this little display here. And on some of the trains downstairs, they did have head marks applied to the front. As we get further along, you obviously get into the development of the Shinkansen, and there are lots of lovely models of them here. Next, I went into the south building, which is called Job Station. Here is where there is more interactivity and it's mostly aimed towards children. But you can also see the Series E5 Shinkansen up close, which is just amazing to see. There are lots of different jobs covered here. I won't go into all of them, but you can find it on their website and how to participate. They even have a model level crossing. But I think the highlight here is being able to walk down by these Shinkansen trains and really be able to appreciate how massive they are. And just see how the design has changed over the years from the Series 400 up to the E5 and onwards. They even had this Yamanote Line Shinkansen Gundam. Outside they have some limited express trains which are set up so you can have your lunch on them. And you can see the elevated train tracks on this side for the Shinkansen and the new shuttle. And on the other side, the local trains run at ground level. There's also a Series E1 Shinkansen train out here as well. The Eki-ben shop on this side is only open on Saturdays and holidays. There is another one on the other side of the museum, and you can bring it through here to eat in one of these trains. So I'm going to head back into the rolling stock station because there's more to see, including this Series 0 Shinkansen from 1964. And this one you can actually go inside and have a little peek through into the cab. On this side we have some freight cars, including the iconic JR freight container in its burgundy colour. I did actually buy some train merch of this freight container. And here we have some more locomotives and passenger trains. You could enter into this diesel rail car, and they had some panels on the wall to imitate you rolling through the countryside on the train. I really like the design of these seats. I think they are just so classic. And there was also a glass bottom, so you could look down through to the engine. They even had noises to completely immerse you and make you feel like you were riding the train. And a really nice squeaky floor. Here's one of the cars that have that head mark on it. I love this Fuji one. And this was a very fancy passenger car. Just look inside at such ornate details. At the northern outside area is where they have the Ekiben shop, and there's lots of space to eat. At this end, there is also more activities geared towards children, and I believe most of them you also need to enter a raffle to participate. I had also picked up one of the maps, and this is what you're meant to stamp this little stamp on into the designated square. And they changed this for the season, so I was there in December, so it was Christmas themed. The shop here is Trainee Art, and I have a whole video about the Trainee Art shop at Tokyo Station. This one is a lot bigger, of course. The one at Tokyo Station is quite small. So the ranges are quite similar, but there is more here. Of course, there is a lot of Suica Penguin merch, and when we go back to Omiya Station, there is a whole Suica Penguin shop, so wait around to see that. They had a really great range of product here, which will appeal to young and old alike, and any level of train fan. They had some really nice model train displays, and of course you can buy them here as well. If you're looking for a train-themed pass holder for your IC card, they had such a good range of them here, including Suica Penguin and rolling stock styles. They did also stock the eki-stamp book here. Of course, you can use any notebook or piece of paper that you like, but a lot of people like to collect them in these. And at the counter they had other options like this Stempel album, which had a nice square format. Now that I didn't have to rush, on leaving the museum I spent a bit of time on the promenade having a look at what was out here, including this very nice looking train. You can go up and have a look inside this one, and as I stepped up I did not realise there was a man having a phone call with his laptop there, but maybe it's a nice place to work. And you can of course have a look inside the cab here and see the old beverage dispensers. And this is outside the ticketed area, so you don't need to pay to come and see these items. I do really like how they've laid out the promenade. It really gets you into the atmosphere of the Railway Museum and gives you little teasers as you head inside. Heading back to the new shuttle station, I passed these on the way in, but on the way out you might want to have a look. There are all of these train gacha. There were so many and I was so tempted, but I had to resist, but you may not be able to. The station here is slightly lower than the Shinkansen tracks, and I waited for the shuttle to arrive. Here it comes, so we get a better look at the system of the track and the rubber wheels as it pulls into the station. It's fun to ride on something that you haven't been on before, and Japan has so many monorails and things like this that we are very truly spoiled here. Back at Omiya Station we now have time to visit the general store rail yard, so this is where they have even more train merchandise for you to choose from. So I would say go easy at Trainee Art at the museum because you may find other things here that you want to pick up. They were selling the eki-stamp books here, as well as the Tetsuencho, which are a special regional train stamp, so there are many more stamps that you can find. They had some mascot merchandise from around Japan, but it is mostly the Suica penguin. Some of the merch can be quite unique in Japan. Here you can get a Suica penguin head to put onto your lip balm cap. If you haven't had your fill of Suica penguin merch, then going back in the station, you want to go towards the Central Gate North ticket line, and you will need to pass through the ticket line in order to access the Penster shop. But trust me, it's worth it. I would recommend visiting this shop on your way back into Tokyo because you'll be getting the train from here anyway. And passing through this gate, you see the bright green shop right in front of you. And you are welcomed by the smiling Suica penguin. If you love the Suica penguin, you will absolutely go crazy in this shop. There is some specific train merch here which they had released at the time, as well as everything else that they have in their range. When I'm filming, I always film first and shop second, and I would actually recommend in a shop like this for you to have a look around everything first and then go back and choose what you really want, because it can be so tempting to just buy everything. I will have a video up with all of the train merch that I bought on this trip, including the things I bought at the stores that I've shown you today. And I just can't help it. The Suica penguin is way too cute and I need to have it on every possible surface. I think this range was exclusive to this store and is themed to Omiya Station. I love these little plushies. They have a magnet which connect them back together. It is so adorable. I also love these little pouches that you can put onto the plushies. There's just something for everything here in Japan. I also noticed that the person in front of me already had a Suica bag laden with charms, so this must be the store for the super fans. They also had the iconic Suica penguin beret here if you want to grab one. And now that I had done one lap around the store, I went around again and picked up everything I wanted to take home with me. So that is our train fan day out checklist complete. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me on this little day out, and maybe I've inspired you to make a train fan day out of your own to the Railway Museum in Omiya. I will link in the description the other train related videos I've made from my travels to Japan, and make sure you're subscribed because I'm heading back to Japan soon for even more train fan activities. Thank you again, and I'll see you very soon.